Good evening. We'll call the meeting to order. If you'd please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Danny, would you please call roll?
Deputy Mayor Baggett.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember DeCoursey.
Here.
Councilmember Holman.
Here.
Councilmember Pelosa.
Here.
Councilmember Trout-Manuel. Here. And Councilmember Wales. Here.
Thank you. And we have, Danny, I believe we have an agenda modification this evening. And I am going to go up to the podium for that, and I'm going to ask Rob Roscoe to join me. So you knew you couldn't get out of here without something. Silly you. So for those of you that may not know, Rob is leaving us to go to WCIA as the assistant director.
Yes, deputy director.
Deputy director at WCIA, so we are not losing him entirely. He will still be available for us for any of our insurance claims, risk management, but this is his last meeting as City Council meeting, as he will be joining WCIA on June 2nd.
June 11th.
June 11th. Oh, so you could have stayed longer for us.
I did take 1 week off.
Oh, whatever. All right. Well, didn't do a proclamation, but decided to ask some of our employees, some of the directors, for some of their fondest memories of you, Rob. So it's not exactly a roast, but kind of. So I just wanted to read a few of the things that were shared. And we do have some photos that we would like to share as well. There is Rob on his first day of work.
Thank you. Yes.
Some people perhaps have caused you to rip your hair out over the years. Yes. All right.
No one in this room, though.
No one in this room, no. So the first thing, as a team, we love Rob so much. We put his picture on T-shirts, cupcake toppers, balloons, and most recently a cake to celebrate his birthday. And then this one. Hi, Mayor. I don't necessarily have a specific story that can be shared in the public forum, but I wrote up a little paragraph to explain the other side of Roscoe. I have heard time and time again from employees, in a hushed whisper no less, that they are intimidated by Mr. Roscoe. I get it. Most employees avoid HR in general, let alone our over 6-foot-tall director of HR. But over the past 4 years, I had the pleasure of getting to see a side that most employees don't. A few years ago, Rob's wife provided a high school photo of Rob that HR created into a poster for his birthday, the same one for his first day of employment. Every year, this photo has resurfaced in one form or another. We even made Team HR t-shirts with the photo on them, because why not, right? Rob is the best sport in dealing with our team shenanigans, and we've so appreciated the levity he provides us, because there are weeks in HR that are just plain hard. I've seen Rob make jokes with our team on days when we've had to deal with challenging HR issues. I've seen Rob handle difficult conversations with employees that are going through a separation with the city in a way where the employee feels heard and cared for. And personally, I've had a boss who has been nothing but understanding when my kids have been sick, my nanny has been late, or any other reason where life crosses work's path. Rob has dedicated so many years to serving Auburn, and I've seen firsthand how he has worked diligently to protect the interests of the city while simultaneously keeping the best interest of our employees in full view. That, my friends, is no easy task. But Mr. Roscoe seems to handle it with ease. The way in which he has supported me and our team will be greatly missed. But hey, at least we'll always have our Roscoe t-shirts, and I intend to wear said t-shirt at the next WCIA training I attend.
Nice.
One that was shared by several people at Lescove Park. We have our Rotary Spray Park. And there had been some concerns that there might be some liability issues surrounding the park area, that it was slippery. Well, Rob went out one day, and we have this commanding presence, and he went out, did a tour around the park, stayed for several minutes,
Took some pictures.
Took some photos, yes. Remember, this is a children's spray park. Took some photos and then left. And shortly after that, our Parks Department was notified of a suspicious-looking man hanging around watching the children at the spray park. We had to let them know everything was all good. This was just Rob doing his job.
I think they said follically challenged. I thought it was Daryl.
I wouldn't have taken pictures.
Yeah.
And then some of our directors agreed that you must have the most sports-related injuries of all directors. I was told that sometimes when you walk into community development and public works, the hair on the back of their neck stands up. Even though they know you're a good person, there is still something about an HR director walking around that brings cause for pause. And then I get this one. This may not be a humorous story, but it is a story that I will long remember about Rob. Over the past dozen years, I have had an opportunity to work with Rob on a number of occasions on a variety of types of cases. Some of those cases were employment law related, and I remember one in particular where the City of Auburn was resisting a challenge by a former employer of our employee who wanted to blame the City of Auburn rather than the former employer for some disability that related much more to the employee's previous employment rather than the workload at the City of Auburn. More than that, the city's defense depended upon our ability to identify what steps the city took to protect employees from the disability-causing influences that we felt were caused by the prior employer. Do you get the impression that this was written by an attorney? Okay. The employee was, of course, a crucial witness, but so was Rob Roscoe. Following up on the testimony of our employee, I called Rob Roscoe to the stand and asked him to describe what is done at the City of Auburn to protect employees from debilitating adverse impacts in the workforce. He did a very capable job of describing that. The attorney on the other side then, to his misfortune, sought to challenge Rob's credentials. He asked what Rob's expertise was, which is prior insurance employment, easily provided. But then, when that didn't work, he tried to challenge Rob on his academic qualifications to give the opinion that was so helpful to the city. As it turns out, and as was impressive to everybody in attendance, Rob described his academic pursuits, his college degree, which conformed exactly to the testimony he was asked to give, a degree related to labor and disability insurance. After the hearing in which the City of Auburn prevailed, in no small measure due to Rob's testimony, and before the hearing examiner left, he asked Rob a question. The dialogue went something like this. I was very impressed with your testimony at how well you answered the questions that were probative to the issues to be decided. But I was especially impressed with the fact that your college degree applied so specifically to this unique aspect of labor law. How did you ever decide to pursue that degree? Rob's response was that he had a friend whose father worked in this field, and that triggered an interest on his part to pursue this course of study when he went to college. The last words out of the hearing examiner's mouth as we left the room was, I am impressed, very impressed. Needless to say, I was impressed as well, but very glad that I had Rob as a witness for that hearing. So I will tell you, when I came into office as mayor, we didn't have an HR director. Employee morale was very low, and I had made a promise to change that. So Rob and I had several chats in my office, and I challenged him that I wanted employees to feel respected and appreciated, held accountable, and that I wanted to hear as much laughter coming out of the HR department doors as there was coming out of the doors at the mayor's office. Because you have to have some fun while you're at work. We spend more waking hours at work than we do anywhere else, and it's critical that employees feel supported, valued, but again, held accountable. And I will tell you that Rob has done an amazing job of making that happen.
Thank you.
One of Rob's biggest accomplishments, he was the inaugural City of Auburn Cornhole champ and was crowned King Cornholio.
Yes. It was.
It was. Well, you can see how excited he is. He's really, really excited. And every now and then I get the opportunity for my daughter to come in and visit. And she calls herself a Rob magnet because it never fails that whenever she comes in for a few minutes, here comes Rob with an issue that can't wait. So Rob, she is going to miss you as well. She wanted me to tell you that.
Thank you. I will miss Lucky as well.
And your last day with us is June 1st.
Yes.
Tammy wanted me to let you know that June 2nd will be bring your pet to work day.
Good. As long as I'm not here.
As long as you're not here. And I just wanted to let you know how much we have appreciated your service to the city, how much we will miss you. Hopefully we don't have to rely on you too much,
No.
meaning that we're doing things the right way, because you have educated us on the right way to handle issues within this city. You will be missed a great deal. I want to thank you personally for what you've taught me and helped me with. And would you like to say anything?
It was a tough decision because I really do enjoy working for Auburn, and knowing that I'm still going to be here because I will still be concerned, connected with the city, made it a lot easier of a choice. So I do thank you for your guidance as mayor. It's been a great tenure, and I really enjoyed all the people and coworkers and the residents that I've worked with. So thank you so much. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Rob. Let's give Rob a big round of applause. His doppelganger.
Nice. Yes.
And if you would like to go forward and accept the appreciation of council for all that you have done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
We won't be calling on you too frequently.
I hope not, but I will be there. Thank you. I think so too.
Thank you for humoring me, Rob. I appreciate that. But we couldn't let you get away without having you know how much we appreciate all that you do. All right, we have no public hearings this evening, so we will move to audience participation. This is a place on the agenda where the public is invited to speak to the City Council on any issue. Those wishing to speak are reminded to sign in on the form provided, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Please come forward, give your name and address for the record.
Good evening. I'm Bob Derrigan from your neighboring city, 104 South 325th Place in Federal Way, Washington. But frankly, I feel like I have two wonderful cities that I'm connected with. I'm here tonight representing the Zone C3 Lions Club. And with that, I want to ask my people who have been part of this effort to come up with me. 14 years now, we've been having a fishing derby for special needs children and their family and their friends. It has been just an incredible ride. This year we faced our first challenge, but I'm told that no day of fishing is ever lost. But something happened. We had over 2,000 fish in the pond. The group that was there, the South Sound anglers, were there a week before us, and everybody there caught a fish. Well, we only had 3 caught, and 7 tree limbs caught, and about 3 people caught their lines together. But you know what? They had a great time. Mayor Nancy Backus, I want to thank you for being there. In her incredible, generous way, she greeted everybody that was there. Their numbers were down a little bit. We don't have all the totals, but the point is that they just had a great time. And it was a good day for Auburn.
It's beautiful.
One of my favorite things I want to tell you is that one family there were all set up at a little table, and it was just like they were making it what it needed to be, a family affair. And Auburn has illustrated their love for other people in the community. Communities, by the way. I know one family was from Bellevue. We get them coming from all over, not just Auburn. It's a great marriage. There's 10 of us our clubs in the zone that are involved in this. I'm just, I'm always touched by this event. And I'm touched by your love and your openness. The staff has absolutely been phenomenal. And Parks and Rec, they're just, whatever we needed, they provided because you said it was okay. So I hope and pray you continue to say it's okay and that you'll join us next year. Hopefully we'll have it on opening day with good weather. The weather was great, but it was the day before Mother's Day, and I think that affected some of the turnout. But those who came indeed had a great time. Again, we thank you for your support.
Thank you, Bob. It was a great, beautiful weather, and we thank all of the Lions clubs for all that you do in all of our communities, and especially for the special needs fishing derby. To see the look on those children's faces when they catch a fish, or even if they don't, they are having so much fun, and to see the families out there together connecting is wonderful. Next year we won't put 2,000 fish in within a week of each other. That should help a little bit with the issue that we had this year, and we'll see you back again because we will always support an event like that. Thank you very much for all that you do.
Thanks again.
Right. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Well, please come forward, give your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name is Bob Zimmerman. I live at 33029 46th Place South in Auburn. And I'd like to speak to you about some seismic issues and the public attitude. The attitude I see throughout people in positions of authority, their callous disregard for safety. Probably the most egregious violation I can recall was in 1974. I was working on a hospital up in Republic, Washington. I started smelling some fumes or something, you know. What's going on? I went down, I found my foreman, and he said, well, the superintendent decided he could keep a lot more heat in this building if he let the fumes run out of the heaters in here. Now, obviously, it was hard to heat this place. It's about 20 below up there. And he told me to get back to work and not make any waves. And I told him, I'm not going to die in here because you guys, they're pumping this place full of carbon monoxide. So I went out and talked to the superintendent. The superintendent told me to get back in there and get back to work, or he's going to call my boss and have me removed from the job. And I says, well, you better hurry because I'm going to go load my tools. And when I leave for lunch, if you're still pumping this place full of carbon monoxide, I won't be back. But I will call L&I and ask them to come up here and look for survivors. And I don't think he liked me very well after that. But anyway, a few years later, I saw iron workers working with a real badly frayed choker. And I mentioned to the foreman there, I said, you know, you're going to hurt somebody with that thing. He told me to mind my own business, and I heard a few days later they crushed a young man's leg, and I regret to this day not calling those L&I that day. Anyway, and what I see going on here in this building department, just totally disregarding people's safety, not enforcing the code, all the experience that I've had up there, my experience with the mayor's open door policy down there. That door slams shut if you bring a real problem in. And I don't know what to say about it other than the fact, I guess, that the mayor is going to talk about mental health. And you see this throughout society, all these big corporations putting people's lives at risk to make a few dollars here and there. And I suppose that's the bottom line with letting builders get away with saving a few bucks when you're trying to cover every square inch of this city with a roof or pavement. But anyway, I'm about out of time, so I guess all I got to say is the mayor's not going to be able to solve mental health issues in this state, but by golly, she can do something about it in her own administration. Thank you. And this sound system is so bad, I can only hear about 2 words out of 100 that you guys say, so I'm not going to stick around long. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zimmerman. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Final time, anyone else that would like to speak? All right, we will move on to Council Ad Hoc Committee reports. Council Ad Hoc Committee chairs may report on the status of their ad hoc council committee's progress on assigned tasks and may give their recommendations to the City Council, if any. And I believe, is it Councilmember Brown providing the finance report this evening?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The ad hoc committee examined the claims vouchers 448715 through 448920, and 2 wire transfers totaling an amount of approximately $5,195,000. Also examining payroll checks 537895 through 537921, and electronic deposits that were processed in this payroll period totaling a little over $2.2 million. All items reviewed appeared in good order. That concludes my report.
Thank you. And for the Roads Ad Hoc Committee, Councilmember DeCoursey.
Thank you, Mayor. The committee, comprised of Deputy Mayor Baggett, myself, and Councilmember Trout Manuel, met on May 14th with our city engineer Ingrid Galb and our traffic engineer James Webb. We continue to review the transportation improvement project plan, the TIP, and we are going through project by project with a detailed review of each project. And we will be meeting again sometime during the week of May 28th, trying to get a schedule to work with everybody's schedule. That's my report.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. All matters listed on the consent agenda are considered by the City Council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. Do we have a motion? Deputy Mayor Baggett.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Trout Manuel.
I second that, Mayor.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Baggett.
Thank you, Your Honor. This consists of about 3 different items. The minutes of the May 7th, 2018 regular council meeting, and the claims vouchers and the payroll vouchers noted by Councilmember Brown. And that concludes the consent agenda.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Passes. All right, we have no unfinished business or no new business, so we will move to ordinances. Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ordinance number 6683, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Auburn, Washington, repealing section 2.30.040 of the Auburn City Code relating to the limitation on serving on more than one board or commission.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Deputy Mayor Baggett.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that we approve ordinance number 6683.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Holman.
Second.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Baggett.
Thank you. This basically is an ordinance that is going to repeal one that was a section of the city code wherein the city code allowed only one person to actually attend, to be a person in attendance at a board or commission meeting for the city. And this particular ordinance, 6683, will allow individuals to attend and be a party to more than one board or commission.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Councilmember Wales.
I'm not going to be voting in support of this. I like the concept of limiting a person to just one committee so they can focus their energies in that area, and that we provide a wealth of opportunities to our ever-growing community. When I came to Auburn in the early 80s, we were around 20,000, and now we're quite a bit larger. Along that same vein, recently, in the last 6 months, a number of our committees, we've increased the number of the membership of those committees to get more people involved. We also have an aggressive a vetting process and recruitment process out of the mayor's office. And so I want to continue to work on limiting a person to only one committee, commission, or board so that we have opportunities to grow our leadership base in the community and possibly get future people to be on the city council and other public positions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other? Councilmember Holman.
I agree in principle with my colleague, Councilmember Wales. It is good that we share these opportunities of decision-making throughout the community. The problem comes in the practical sense when we don't have sufficient applicants to fill the boards, and we have people telling us that are already working on a board that meets maybe once a quarter, that they'd like to be more active in an additional board. So this is a practical ordinance just to get the necessary people to have a quorum. Sometimes we have to reach down and get someone who's interested in working on and has sufficient time to work on 2 boards. It is not preferable. It just sometimes is necessary so that the work of the board can be done.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Councilmember Trout Manuel.
I also have to agree with Mrs. Wells about opening this up to a broader group of people. I hear what Mr. Holman is saying, but I also have heard from the community that they have applied many, many times and have never been called. So I am not going to vote for this because I do feel that we should be able to rotate and get newer people and more input throughout the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Councilmember DeCoursey.
I think it's important to note that, as has been mentioned, we as a growing community, look to our residents and people within the community to participate, but sometimes people just have a hard time volunteering. These are all volunteer positions, and it takes maybe a little bit of more effort and more involvement sometimes to allow them to come in and participate. I like the idea also of serving on one board. I think there's plenty of opportunities for a number of individuals to look at serving. We are limited sometimes with the quorums we have and not having quorum, and perhaps people not choosing to participate as actively as they could or should have. But I also think it's also important to allow people to have more of an opportunity, and perhaps by coming forward with this publicly tonight, maybe we can entice more people to join us. Thank you.
Councilmember Pelosi.
Thank you, Mayor. I am a product of a 2-board system. Prior to my running for Auburn City Council, I was on the White River Valley Museum Board, appointed by the mayor at that time, and also the Airport Advisory Board, appointed by a different mayor at that time. And there were shortage of citizens wanting to step up and involve themselves in different boards. So I think it's necessary that we don't limit participation by our citizens. If we have energetic people out there that want to participate in more than one boards, then I say that's a positive way to support your community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Okay, hearing no more questions or comments. All those in favor of ordinance number 6683, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. No. Okay, since it's split, let's do a raise of hands. All those in favor, please raise your hand. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. All opposed. The motion carries 4-3.
Next matter is resolution number 5365, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Auburn, Washington, confirming the appointment of Stephen L. Gross as City Attorney for the City of Auburn, Washington.
Thank you. Do we have a motion? Councilmember Holman.
Yes, I move for the acceptance of resolution 5365.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. I second that motion.
Thank you. Councilmember Holman.
Stephen L. Gross used to be the assistant Auburn City attorney. Prior to that, he was United States Army, an attorney with them, and he left Auburn to become the city attorney in Port Townsend. And after an absence of not quite 4 years.
Almost exactly 4 years.
Almost exactly 4 years, okay. Has been enticed to come back to fulfill a soon-to-be open position of Auburn City Attorney. So he has my support in this and would urge my colleagues to vote in support of this resolution.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Councilmember Pelosi.
The only thing wrong with Steve is
His branch of
he
military.
rides a motorcycle.
I thought you were going to say branch of military.
And no, I worked with Steve for many years. The 4 years, prior to that. I don't know, how many years was he here before?
It was about 5 years.
Okay. Anyway, I worked with him during those 5 years when we couldn't find City Attorney Dan Hyde. He was somewhere, but we couldn't find him. Only kidding, Dan. Only kidding. No, but seriously, in working with Steve, there's a guy that is very flexible in his decision making. And I enjoyed working with him because he didn't just stick his head in the sand and say, hey, we can't do it that way. He thought about it, and he had a decision other than no. So I'm really pleased that Steve is coming back to Auburn. I mean, no OJT for him. I mean, he's been here, he knows our system, and he knows the city. And so I'm really looking forward to working with Steve again. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Wales.
Well, I was going to speak about the motorcycle and wondering if we could possibly get maybe a place for him.
Microphone, please.
Sorry. We could get a place for him to park his motorcycle. But besides that, I think that it's incredible, Mayor, that you were able to find someone to replace Dan, because Dan is irreplaceable, and whatever magic you worked, to get someone to come back that has a history that we need in such a rapidly growing community with so many diverse issues, we are incredibly fortunate. So nice job.
Thank you. And I will say that was in no small part due to Rob and to Dan as well. And once we had reached out to Steve and didn't think it was going to be possible to entice him away from Port Townsend, Rob forwarded an email to me, and the subject line of that email was, "You're an evil man, Rob Roscoe." So I appreciate all of the work that went into enticing Steve back, and I believe someone else had a comment. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. I am hearing good things said about Mr. Gross, and I appreciate that. The very fact that we know who he is, and we want him back, and he knows who we are, and he wants to come back, speaks volumes about this hire. But I also wanted to remind my colleague and friend, Councilmember Pelosa, that I also ride a motorcycle, and that is not the only thing wrong with me. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that has a question or comment? So just for the audience, under the RCW, the Revised Code of Washington, there is a requirement that the city attorney be approved by the city council. That is the only director position that requires approval by the city council. So if you're wondering if we bring forward all director positions for approval through the council, we do not. It is the city attorney that needs to be approved by the council. Councilmember Holman.
And there's a reason for that, because the city attorney not only represents the city, but he represents the city council, us.
And does. All right. Without any further comments, all those in favor of resolution number 5365, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Passes.
Resolution number 5368, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Auburn, Washington, authorizing the mayor to execute an interlocal agreement between the City of Auburn and the Green River College for the purpose of providing small business education and training.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Councilmember Brown.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I move adoption of resolution number 5368.
Thank you. Is there a second? Deputy Mayor Baggett.
I'll second that, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I am familiar with a past program for small business incubator here in town that was a partnership between Green River, then Community College, and the Small Business Administration, and am aware of a great benefit to our emerging and growing businesses in our city. I think this is a great option, alternative to that program that is now being funded through a grant from the Port of Seattle.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of resolution number 5368, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Passes.
Resolution number 5369, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Auburn, Washington, authorizing the mayor to accept federal grant funds to be administered through a Washington State Department of Transportation for the A Street Southeast Preservation Project.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Councilmember DeCoursey.
I move for the adoption of Resolution 5369.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilmember Trout Manuel.
I second that, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember DeCoursey.
Thank you, Mayor. This resolution authorizes the mayor to accept a federal grant in the amount of $881,800. This is to finance the design, environmental permitting, and construction phases of the A Street Southeast Preservation Project. There's also a requirement for a 50% local funding match, and that's included in one of our budget proposals for the city. So this project will grind and overlay A Street Southeast from East Main to 17th, so it's quite a long stretch on a very busy road. It's going to remove unused driveways and upgrade curb ramps and pedestrian signals as needed to meet all of the ADA requirements.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Councilmember Pelosa.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm a little perplexed why the Department of Transportation WashDOT form isn't filled out. Dan, why isn't the form filled out?
Ingrid, would you like to come forward?
So the form that's included is the template document for the washed-out agreements. And the way that the washed-out agreements work is the overall grant, we only obligate phases of that project until the end of the project. So even when we include that numbers in there, you're not going to see the full 888 or 81,000. That is the federal grant funds. So what we've attached is basically all the language that we're agreeing to. The only thing that's missing from that is the numbers.
Mayor, I have another question.
Yes, Councilman. Does anyone else have a question? Okay. Councilmember Trout Manuel.
Okay, so Ingrid, it says here that the
Your
city
microphone, please.
It says here that the city's going to match that 81. And
correct.
So all of this is going to go for that whole stretch?
Correct. So right now, the project is actually included in the CFP for 2019 and 2020. WashDOT had some funds available this year, and we said, yes, we can move the project forward. So what we need to do is move those design funds into this year, but the project itself is already budgeted within the 105 fund.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for Ingrid? Councilmember Pelosi.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So what is the total project cost?
So the total project cost is about 1.7 million total. So it'd be the 881,000 plus another 881,000.
So just those two funding sources?
Correct.
There was a map included.
Yes.
There was a map included. I don't understand this map.
And I don't know if what's included is in color in your packet. If
Yeah,
it is,
the red. The red.
Yeah, so
Are we just talking about the red for the project?
no, the blue dash line is the project.
Oh, the blue.
Unfortunately, the red is how the SR-18 shows up in the mapping.
Okay. It would have been helpful had that been identified on the map for future reference. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Mayor, may I just also add one additional comment, and that is that the resolution actually authorizes the mayor to negotiate all the terms, and that's the reason why it's not completely filled out. It's the template, but the mayor is to finalize those terms.
Okay. All right. All those in favor of resolution number 5369, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Passes. All right, we will move on to mayor and council member reports. At this time, the mayor and city council. Councilmember Trout Manuel, did you have a comment to make?
I was just asking about what I was going to report on.
Okay. Okay. At this time, the mayor and city council may report on significant items associated with their appointed positions on federal, state, regional, and local organizations, and we will begin with Deputy Mayor Baggett.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, this last 2 weeks has really been a busy time for a lot of meetings and boards and commissions and what have you. So I'm going to zip through some of these things. May 8th, as a member of the City of Auburn Left Board, which is the Law Enforcement Officers and Firefighters Disability Board, I traveled to Lake Chelan for the annual conference, where I attended a nonstop array of sessions ranging from community paramedicine, Medicare, and veterans benefits to stem cell therapy, plus a few others thrown in for good measure. The conference was well attended by representatives from all facets of the Washington state. On May 16th, Wednesday, May 16th, I had the pleasure of assisting the ribbon cutting and the grand reopening of the McDonald's restaurant over on Auburn Way near 15th. And the owner-operator, Stan, Julia Jordan, and the representatives from the Auburn Chamber of Commerce, Senator Mark Hargrove, and corporate representatives from McDonald's were present at the ribbon cutting. Give it a try over there. They have some good food that they haven't had in the past. So, also on the May 17th, I attended the Medic One EMS Task Force Finance Subcommittee. This is a reauthorization of an existing levy that taxpayers here, property owners, will be asked again to approve a 6-year levy. And this levy will be from 2019 for the next 6 years after that. And it is a property tax, but it's not a new one. It's a reauthorization, and I kind of expect that the range, and I'm speculating on this, as I've mentioned before, will probably run somewhere between 23 and 30 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. So, thank you.
All right. Councilmember Pelosi.
So excited. I attended the Metropolitan Solid Waste Management Committee. This is related to garbage and recycling materials. We're 37 cities are involved in this whole area that we are a member of. And the interlocal agreement, we have an interlocal agreement with King County. And up to about 2 months ago, Bellevue and Seattle did not want to join the other cities. Well, they have confirmed that they will, and so that will help on the cost package for this whole program. So that's goodness for the citizens of King County and the 37 cities that are participating. And that goes through 2040. How many people on this dais will be around in 2040? Also, there's a recycling program called the Green Schools Program here in the Auburn School District. And we are participating in that King County recycling program to teach young folks the reason for recycling materials. And then they go home and they educate their parents on why we should recycle, Mommy and Daddy. This is why we should recycle. So it's a very good program. Then there's a program that started up recently called the China Sword, like sword, program. Our utility supervisor, Joan Nelson, working for the city, she is part of that committee. This is where China is not accepting any more plastics from the US of A. They have enough people within China to take care of their own recycling needs. So we are now grappling, this committee is going to grapple with what are we going to do now? If we send everything to the landfill, that's going to fill the landfill up quick, post haste, quick. Well, we don't want to do that because once that landfill, Cedar Hills landfill is filled, folks, we're going to have to export garbage and recycling out of King County by rail to Oregon, and the costs go up. So the whole objective of this committee that I'm on is to sustain that landfill out in Maple Valley as long as we can. Let's see. Oh, rate increase. There has not been a what they call a tipping fee. That's where the transfer station haulers take it out, take the garbage and everything else out to the landfill, and when they dump it, it's called a tipping fee. I don't know where they ever got that name, but that's what they call it. So it's been 2 years since there's been a increase, and that's very good. There is, for next year and 1919 and 1920, there is a proposal a 4.6% increase. So just stay tuned for that. The Cedar Hills landfill is planning to close in 2028. When I came on the council 15 years ago, I went on this committee, and at that time, the landfill was supposed to have closed in 2016. 2016. So they're trying to build the capacity now to 2040. But now with this China sword thing on recycling, that's a big question mark right now. What are we going to do? So I think one other important aspect, we are going through and I'm not going to worry about it tonight. That's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Trout Manuel.
Mine is not going to be as long as Mr. Pelosa. I had the honor to go to the senior center with Mr. Pelosa, and every so many months we have 2 city council members that go for coffee hour. And I really enjoy going to those because it's nice to hear from some of our seniors and about their concerns in our city, and it's always nice to be able to reassure them that we're on top of things, or if we haven't gotten to it, we confirm to them that we will go back to our mayor or the department heads and tell them these concerns. So it's always nice. This time we had about 10 or 12 people there, always having the same concerns, but it's always nice to reassure them. So it's always a pleasure to be able to go to those coffee hours. So I haven't seen you two there, Mr. Taylor, Mrs. Taylor. It would be nice to see you guys there.
Councilmember Wales.
Thank you. A couple of weeks ago on a Friday night, we had a wonderful art walk. I want to again thank the Parks Department for all that they do to help the nonprofit art walk. We had huge crowds. We had beverages that continue to grow that are from our local vendors, which is always nice to see. Not only do they give us great prices, but they have absolutely wonderful products. It's an opportunity at a very low expense for some of our local artists. Many of them are kind of kids. To me, a kid is anything below 40. And to show their wares, to practice how they advertise and get feedback and sell their products. We have a very talented arts community that's continuing to grow, and we will be having another art walk in September. And what was really exciting was to see that we used the whole Main Street. Everybody was in and out of all the wonderful local businesses that we have, and it was just full of energy and creativity.
Thank you. Councilmember Holman.
Thank you, Mayor. Last Friday, I attended the Washington State Forensics Investigation Council meeting, which I'm a member of, and I'd like to use my time to advertise for some of the jobs that they're looking. For those people that are looking to start a career, the Washington State Crime Lab has 9 position openings right now. 5 DNA specialists, 1 materials analyst. We used to call the materials analyst the hair and fiber guy, but they also test for accelerants in arson investigations. 1 toxicologist that tests for various toxic substances that are found in victims, a firearms analyst, and a crime scene specialist. Open right now. If you're qualified and can pass the background, you could get a job with the Washington State Crime Lab. They also have an opening for a summer intern for a young college student that's in the science major. Might be a chance to look at what working in a crime lab is. But a quick search on the internet shows that there are 93 job openings in the state of Washington for crime lab technicians. So it's a great field for people that may have an interest in this line of work. And the Washington State Crime Lab has labs in Marysville, Vancouver, Seattle, and Spokane. So I'd recommend working in a city other than Seattle because they don't quite pay enough to live in Seattle. But Marysville or Vancouver, it might be a good place to live. Great, it's a great career. So if we can get somebody that's in their college years right now that'd be interested in this, give the Washington State Crime Lab headquarters in Seattle a call and get a tour of the place. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Brown.
Yes, just a short report tonight following on Councilmember Pelosa's report on solid waste. I would report to the council that I have visited a landfill near Goldendale, the Roosevelt facility, where they do an excellent job of processing all of the solid waste from Snohomish County, which is brought over there. So it's in-state. I would also report it's unionized. And they produce a substantial amount of electricity from the waste gas that is produced there. So there is an alternative. I suspect it will be a little more expensive. There's also another landfill near Wenatchee that uses the rail method of delivering solid waste. But I appreciate the good hard work that you've done on solid waste for this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember DeCoursey.
Thank you, Mayor. May 15th, I attended the Affordable Housing Advisory Board meeting, and again, just as a reminder, the Affordable Housing Advisory Board meeting is a governor-appointed board consisting of 22 members, a cross-section of people from across the state and disciplines, including nonprofit housing providers, affordable housing providers, market rate housing, homeless housing, just a combination of a lot of disciplines. The two key things from that meeting were as a result of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, there's now a designation called Opportunity Zones. Opportunity Zones are economically distressed communities where new investments under certain conditions may be eligible for a preferential tax treatment. What that means is that those localities that qualify can have individuals or corporations provide investments for developing affordable housing. And the investments in this particular case are at risk because there is not a guarantee there's going to be a return on the investment, rather than looking at it just from a social need. However, the individuals and the corporations are able to invest their unrealized capital gains into these zones and invest into the opportunity zones, and they receive the tax benefits for that. In King County, there are a total of 23 opportunity zones. And you'll be hearing more about this as we continue to go on in the future of what this means in areas of King County and what it means for potential investments into new affordable housing. The other was a report from the Department of Ecology, who presented an update on the engrossed substitute Senate Bill number 6095. This bill provides a toxic cleanup program that will allow the use of public lands for potential use of redevelopment into affordable housing. Now, if you ever heard of brownfields, where there's a lot of toxic chemicals that need to be cleaned up, it takes many, many years to do the cleanup of the brownfields. And this is similar to that as well. It could take many, many years depending upon the type of contamination within the soils. However, it's good news knowing that we now have a bill that was passed by the legislature to allow this to go forward and perhaps look at the availability of more land to be used for affordable housing. Secondly, on May 16th, I attended the Regional Transit Committee, King County Regional Transit Committee. We had no action items. We have 3 briefings. We get a lot of briefings at this committee. And one of the briefings was done by Diane Carlson, who is now the head of the Capital Projects Division for King County Metro. Diane comes out of the Executive's Office of King County. The Transportation Improvement Program under Diane's leadership will include a budget of $1.4 billion for capital infrastructure and $780 million for fleet investments. And this program will take place between the years 2017 and 2022. The program also includes a process for providing more reliable service and completion of major capital projects between the years 2019 and 2020 within Metro's area. A good part of this process is watched very carefully by our transportation planner in the city, Joe Welsh, who attends these meetings with me and provides us a lot of great insight as to what happens on that process. Joe's also a member of the Technical Advisory Committee, where he meets with Metro on a regular basis to identify needs and opportunities for all of our communities, including in Auburn. There was also a presentation on the Metro Connects long-range plan, and what they're looking at there is to look at other forms of shared mobility to reduce traffic on the roads. And this includes shared shuttles, which 2 to 5 employers could share in ride services for their employees, looking at carpool apps that can be addressed by individuals who are looking at removing themselves from the single occupancy vehicles and increasing the use of the HOV lanes. And then also looking at car sharing parking, where at the park and rides and other locales where there's parking, to allow people to have a better access to transit, increase parking space turnover, and to test partnerships with private providers to allow more in and out of those areas, to allow more people to park in the park and ride areas and to take availability of public transportation. That's my report.
Thank you. On May 7th through the 9th, I was in Washington, D.C. with the Tacoma-Pierce County Chamber of Commerce. I was asked to be a speaker on the panel for focus on 2018 federal health care with a special focus on mental health. And the panel included CHI Franciscan and Multicare, as well as myself, and Congressman Derek Kilmer was the moderator for that panel. It was a very enlightening trip. There were several panels that were included in this annual trip that it was called the Washington to Washington annual conference, and there were panels on JBLM, and that was facilitated by Congressman Denny Heck, talking about what a military base brings to our community. And since Auburn is within a 50-mile radius of JBLM, we are considered a military town. And so there are a lot of opportunities that come with that, including a very skilled workforce. And JBLM is the second most popular base for people to retire from the military at. What do you think the number one is? Hawaii. But number two is JBLM. I think that speaks volumes for our region and what opportunities we have because of the high quality and skilled workforce that we have coming out of the military. Also, we had a transportation and infrastructure panel that was facilitated by Congressman Rick Larson, and also the commerce, cultural, and maritime ties that bind Washington and Alaska. And surprisingly, there is a great deal that ties Washington and Alaska together, maritime, of course, but there's a great deal of work and trade that goes on between our two states. And then the panels were finished with small business in Tacoma and Pierce County, and that was facilitated by our own Senator Maria Cantwell. And she took questions on small businesses and any other questions that we might have. All of the congressmen and our senator were very gracious and very willing and open to providing any information that they have. Talked with them briefly about our airport and the concerns we have over the length of the runway. And so they are up to speed on what our needs are for that as well. So it was a very valuable trip. Also building the relationships with elected officials from Pierce County, as well as Chamber of Commerce members. And as all of you know and can attest, that when you go to a conference, there are always great relationships built and opportunities that you bring back. So hopefully some of those will come to fruition in the near future. On Saturday the 12th, not only did I start the wonderful Auburn, or the Noon Lion, or the, excuse me, not just the Auburn Noon Lions, but the Lions Zone Fishing Derby just prior to that, and fortunately just right across the street from that at Bob Regner Park, there was the first Skills Inc. Run for Abilities 5K. And so I got the starter gun, shot the gun off they all went. They had a great turnout for their very first event, and they have already promised to do it again next year. But it was a wonderful event to see people out running with all different abilities. There was a group up front of family members with individuals in wheelchairs or carts who certainly could not be running on their own, but they go to all of these events and run for their kids, with their kids. And so that was a great deal of fun and very inspirational. Also, this past weekend was Pet Palooza. And did any of you make it out to Pet Palooza? It was very well attended. We had a record number of 600 plus runners for the 3K and the 5K, runners and walkers. And beautiful day for it. Daryl, great job if you were the one that was in charge of weather this year. Nicely done. And then I left there to go to the Master Builders Association holds a rampathon every year. And for the past 2 years, they have built a ramp. Members of the Master Builders Association have identified individuals in our community that are in need of a ramp for their house for wheelchairs. And so this year it was in right downtown Auburn, so I was able to go over and thank those who were taking their afternoon to build a ramp, and then back to Pet Palooza to do the pet trick competition. And so congratulations to all of the winners. There was the look-alike contest, there was the pet kissing contest, and the DJ there did a wonderful job of getting the most inappropriate romantic music as these dogs were, as the owners were trying to get the dogs to lick them in the face to win that contest. It was hilarious. I also want to give you information on an upcoming mental health town hall that will be held on Thursday, May 31st at our Community and Events Center, and that will be at 5:30. I hope you will attend. We have a wonderful panel of experts. We have Valley Cities, we have Auburn Police Department, we have Valley Regional Fire Authority, we have King County, we have Seattle DESC, and others that will be providing information for mental health services in our community, and there will be booths set up or tables set up for those who may be in need of services to get information or know someone who is. At our State of the City address this year, we asked the audience to vote how many of you know someone who has mental health issues or is in mental health crisis, and the answer came back at 86%. I would venture to say that there are more than that, and while I was a member of the panel in D.C., I asked everyone to close their eyes and picture someone who they know who is having a mental health crisis or who has behavioral health means either a mental health or a substance use disorder, drug addiction. And so ask that everyone close their eyes for just a few moments and picture that person and try and remember that person, that loved one in your life who may be suffering perhaps silently or perhaps not silently and is in need of help. So I hope that you will attend, join us on May 31st, 5:30 p.m., Community and Events Center, to provide information for you or someone that you know. Mr. City Attorney, are we in need of a closed or executive session?
No, we are not, Your Honor.
All right, Rob, this is your last council meeting. Thank you so much for your service to our city. You have done an admirable job, and we will miss you. And with that, we are adjourned.